Let's go to Peggy Grande, as we always do at this time every week, to gather insights into the American political system, or should we say the possible collapse of the American political system. As I've said many times, the greatest insurance policy that Joe Biden has is the Vice President, Kamala Harris. You might recall that in the last Democratic presidential primaries, now remember there was a tribe of them that almost couldn't fit on the stage, but Kamala Harris wasn't one of them. She didn't make it. She had to withdraw after Tulsi Gabbard attacked her record as Attorney General in California. But to indicate the total absence of support for Kamala Harris within her own party, when she pulled out, there were 15 Democratic presidential candidates ahead of her. In other words, her own party didn't want her. Biden made her vice president. Draw your own conclusions, but this is what Biden said in February 2020.
As vice president, I think it would be wonderful to have a woman or a person of color as vice president.
So there you are. Here's the woman of colour that even her own Democratic Party didn't want when the presidential primaries were being held. She barely gathered a vote. But there's one other thing before we go to Peggy that I'd like to share with you. Let me go back to that February on-stage debate during the primaries, 2020. I'll just play you 18 seconds here, simply because it highlights the extraordinary deterioration in Biden's cognitive capacity. You'll note here he speaks, he doesn't mumble, there is reasonable continuity, and he seems able to marshal ideas, none of which he can do now. Just listen, this is not such a bad thing. Listen to 18 seconds where Biden is talking coherently about why the president needs a good vice president. Listen to this.
One of the things I learned is that no president in the 21st century can handle the job all by themselves. It's just too much that lands on your plate. So you've got to be prepared to turn over significant responsibility, as the president did with me on matters relating to a whole range of issues.
That's pretty good. Let's go to Peggy and her thoughts on that. Peggy, thank you again for your time. It is a miracle and utterly damaging to the free world that Biden hasn't been moved on already. What are your thoughts about the Biden coherence in those comments and the need for a strong vice president?
Well, thank you, Alan, as always, for having me on. And clearly, we see the mental decline that's coming. And it's not just you and me that see it, and it's not just the United States and Australia that see it. It's our enemies all around the world who are sensing weakness. They're sensing an incoherence. They're watching all these errors that are made, which are not just gaffes. They are complete lapses in his capacity to understand complex things. And then to your other point about Kamala Harris, as you said, she is the best insurance policy. The vice presidency is a very important role, and historically, 15 times the vice president has ultimately become the president of the United States. 8 of those times it was due to the death of a president. And so it's a very significant role. He chose somebody who checked a few boxes, but did not choose somebody based on merit. And they needed to look to the people of California, who I think gave her less than 1% of the vote. So the people who knew Kamala Harris the best liked her the least. And that should have been every indication that that was going to be a poor choice. And it has proven to be a disastrous choice for Biden.